I just want to draw your attention to a throwaway line that I said a couple videos ago.
Girlfriend 35 is up next, and it seems like we even got a hint in the preview, with Rentaro meeting her in the infirmary. So I will see you all in the next video as we break down everything for Girlfriend 35, and everything she has to offer as the last girlfriend of 2025.
Apparently some of you took offense to that, claiming that we will be getting Girlfriend 36 still in 2025. So let's do a quick investigation, because spoiler alert, it's break week, so I can take my time getting this video out. So, let's have a drawn-out opening. For those who don't keep an eye on this series like a, well, owl, the Japanese weekly release of 100 Girlfriends happens, at least in the United States where I am, Wednesday morning, 7 AM specifically for me, which coincides with the midnight release of the new chapter in Young Jump magazine Thursday morning. So, easy enough. Is it possible to have enough Wednesdays/Thursdays for the remainder of the year to get Girlfriend 36 in 2025? The short answer? Yes. Not counting the week this video is coming out because of break week, the chapter that would introduce Girlfriend 36, that being chapter 239, would come out on December 17th/18th. So why am I so doubtful? I mean, come on guys, that's 5 weeks, 5 more chapters, and the end of Nurse Chiyu's volume from now until the end of the year. There is no way there isn't going to be another break week before that. I'm actually really curious now what's the longest these two have released chapters without a break week. Let's check the 100 Girlfriend Analyzer and see what it can give me. In 2025 there was only one instance of 5 consecutive weeks, that being near the beginning of the year running from the introduction of Hasuwa in chapter 204 to the first half of the Nano Sirius arc of 208. Until we had that awful break week of wondering what would happen to Nano. Everything after that has been 3 to 4 consecutive releases until another break week. So, it's not impossible, but it's running more on the unlikely side. Doing some quick math calculates that it is a likelihood of 25 to 30% probability that they do another 5-week continuous streak before the holiday break. Guess it really comes down to if Nakamura and Nozawa want to squeeze Girlfriend 36's introduction into 2025, and then have us wait until all the holidays pass and into the new year to meet the family chapter. Or just do it all in January. Personally, I think I prefer the latter. Let's have a new girlfriend to start off the year as literally the first chapter. And for those who want Girlfriend 36 under their Christmas tree this holiday, keep holding on to that 30% chance likelihood. I'm Moonlight150, and this is my overview of the latest 100 Girlfriends manga chapter, Chapter 234, The Delinquent and the School Nurse. Be sure to support the scanlators who bring us these translated chapters as often as Nakamura and Nozawa are releasing them by reading where they post them. And it may or may not help get Girlfriend 36 out by Christmas, but it can't hurt to increase the odds by supporting the official release in your region. Now, let's all head to the infirmary. The chapter opens with the walk to school for the Rentaro family. Funny, I don't think we've seen this since like the Nano Sirius arc that I just mentioned earlier. Coincidence? And everyone can't help but notice that Saki and Nurse Chiyu are already well acquainted with one another, so much so that Ms. Natty and Hakari can't help but point it out. Thus, it's flashback time, as it turns out that Saki and Nurse Chiyu have known each other for quite some time. Cut to 1 year ago during Saki's true 3rd year and not her repeating 3rd year. We see the follow-up to the various tactics Saki used during the year to miss as many school days as possible, like we saw in the montage in her introduction chapter. Also, is this the closest flashback we have ever seen to the present? Most flashbacks are usually all the way to when the characters were toddlers or middle schoolers. Just the previous school year before Rentaro started finding girlfriends just may be the closest, unless I'm misremembering another instance. Also, I want to call out, do people get stomach aches from drinking too much milk? Is that a thing?
Bombastic side-eye. Criminal offensive side-eye.
Fun fact about Moonlight, I drink a lot of milk. Like, I drink more milk than I do water most days. It's my go-to beverage at home. We're talking like a half a gallon a day if I'm home all day by myself. And I've never gotten a stomach ache from that. So either I'm in the minority here with a stomach of steel, or is this implying that Saki may be lactose intolerant if she's getting a stomachache from milk alone? After a montage of the various methods that Saki used to make herself ill, much like how we saw in her introduction chapter, Nurse Chiyu reminds Saki that she will always be there to help her feel better, which starts to weigh on Saki's conscience that Nurse Chiyu is spending so much time and effort in taking care of her, when Saki's been making herself sick and injured on purpose all this time. So she ends up coming clean to Nurse Chiyu about what's been going on, and Nurse Chiyu asks why she has been doing that to herself. And we get a flashback within the flashback, as we see Saki's vertical struggles throughout her entire school life. And it's because of all the bullying and teasing that Saki devised the strategy we all know her for. skipping class so she'd be forced to repeat the year, and thus being the oldest student in the school because if you need a reminder, her whole worldview revolves around who's older. Thankfully, Nurse Chiyo is fully sympathetic of her situation. Well, at least as sympathetic as one can be looking like she's about to pop a blood vessel, which scares Saki to no end, wondering how much trouble she's actually going to be in, and begins to apologize even more. But Nurse Chiyo reaffirms that she's not angry by Saki's actions, and goes on this nice little speech about how it's only natural that Saki would do everything in her power to make school more bearable, especially when it comes to stuff like bullying, especially for even coming to school instead of outright ditching and never showing up like most other kids would probably do in this situation, and Nurse Chiyo commends her on her bravery. And with that, we end the flashback as we see Nurse Chiyo happy to see how far Saki has come, with now finding the place where she belongs among people who respect and accept her. And there we have it, another chapter in the books. Felt shorter than usual, but impactful all the same. I've been Moonlight150, and be sure to like, comment, and... Wait, what do you mean there's another flashback? Cut to now 9 months ago rather than a full year, and we see Saki and Nurse Chiyo have become close as they chat away about their favorite food in the nurse's office. But things take a turn as it turns out to be a rather bright and sunny day that day. So much so that all of Momoha's class apparently all got heat stroke and are now in desperate need of Nurse Chiyo's aid. And we see Nurse Chiyo's trademark angry face, this time being angry towards the sun for giving all these students and fellow faculty members heat stroke. Now with 3 months of friendship under her belt, Saki is able to realize what Nurse Chiyo's face is and how that might come across to the students who are currently suffering. I mean, would you want to be helped by someone wearing this face? In a spur of the moment to change her facial expression to something lighter, Saki ends up tickling Nurse Chiyo to break her face of contempt. Thankfully, Nurse Chiyo's bright and wholesome smile was already good enough to help the students start feeling better from their heat stroke. Manga logic, I guess. Nurse Chiyo expresses gratitude to Saki for what she did back then, as it seems like she wasn't fully aware of how her face is when she's trying to hide her anger behind her smile, and was thankful for Saki's quick action to help keep the reputation of the nurse's office of being a safe haven for students. Now finally leaving all the flashbacks behind us, Saki and Nurse Chiyo are caught up in calling each other their own guardian angel, as Saki doesn't keep her eyes on the road and trips over the smallest rock possible. That's twice now in what, like, a week that Saki has tripped on a rock? And here I thought I was clumsy. As Saki fights back the tears from taking a tumble, Rentaro tries to hurry to her aid, but instead Nurse Chiyo is on the job and reassures her that she's going to be just fine and that nobody noticed how close she was on the verge of tears. Yeah, nobody noticed. And Saki gets up and tries to play it off like it was no big deal. And I love that nobody here is falling for the act. Now that we're actually at the end, we are at the end, right? No more flashbacks? Okay, good. It seems like Nakamura is in his sequel phase, first with the Momoha chapter and now this. And so much of this chapter tied back to what we already knew of Saki. In fact, this feels more like a Saki chapter rather than a Nurse Chiyo chapter, which is a little unfortunate. The same thing happened with Eru's chapter, and while Eru did have some good screen time in that chapter, it felt more like a three-way chapter between all the leads. Whereas here once again, we should be learning more about Nurse Chiyo as a character, but instead we get more fleshed out Saki backstory. And while I do like the team-up aspect of a lot of these chapters, one always seems to eclipse the others. Saki's flashback was a lot more in-depth and detailed than Nurse Chiyo's, which almost felt like an afterthought of saying, oh yeah, this is supposed to be a Nurse Chiyo chapter. Kind of like what happened in the Karane and Kishka chapter a couple chapters ago, where the story was mostly focused on this Karane story, and then they threw in a small Kishka plotline at the end. Will this be a new or reoccurring trend in the series? Only time will tell. I'm happy we got more Saki in the spotlight, but a little disappointed it's basically a retread of what we already knew about her instead of anything new. But it is nice to give Saki her own group, which may expand later with another girlfriend. And it is interesting to have two girlfriends who actually have a shared history, and a positive one at that, unlike the one-sided rivalry that Mimimi and Nano had back then. It does make me think though, these two have been friends for around a year now. You think Saki ever talked about dating Rentaro to her during their chats? And now here they are both dating the same guy? Kind of wish we got Saki's point of view when Nurse Gi was introduced to the family, as she probably had this stunned look on her face. Her one friend that wasn't a part of the Rentaro family is now a part of it. Hope we see more of these two together in future chapters. But that will do it for this chapter. It's break week, so go outside and enjoy some of your other hobbies in the meantime. I'll see you all in 2 weeks when the next chapter is out. It's the middle of the volume, so literally anything can happen. I'm feeling another two-parter coming up. I've been Moonlight150, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and trip over that notification bell if you haven't. And I will see you all on the next one.